Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head to Norway once again, and we're going to revisit a brewery who you've seen me review a good number of different things from now. And this is their most recent release that they've done in Sweden actually. So we're going to go back to Stavanger in the southwestern part of Norway, and we're having a taste of yet another beer from the Lervig Aktiebryggeri. So this one is the Hazy Days, which is an American pale ale coming in at 4.7%. This is a half-litre can, so that's why it's a little bit taller than some of the other ones, but this one should be very, very nice. This was released through the Smoothness on the 26th of April 2019. It's supposed to be a very nice beer, and I'm very curious to try this. I've had a good number of really nice IPAs from Lervig, and of course at the dark end of the spectrum these guys are pretty damn good as well. So really curious to see how this one turns out, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from the Lervig Aktiebryggeri. I've reviewed maybe about 7 or 8 of their beers already. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Norwegian beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Lervig Aktiebryggeri then. So as I mentioned to you earlier, Lervig Aktiebryggeri are based in Stavanger in southwestern Norway. Quite a big oil city actually. If you think about Aberdeen in Scotland, Stavanger in Norway is probably the Norwegian equivalent. But the Lervig Aktiebryggeri was founded back in 2003 after the Tohu brewery was sold to Carlsberg, and it was subsequently after that the production of the Tohu beers was moved to Oslo. But for a while the Lervig beers were produced at Malt brewery in Tromsø. However, production was moved to Hillevåg in Stavanger back in 2005. But the head brewer for Lervig is Mike Murphy, and he's been with them since 2010. And prior to this, the brewery were making many kind of light lager beers, but Mike moved them more in the direction of making the American style craft beers that have become renowned the world over. But Mike played quite an important role in the Danish craft beer revolution, and so he's collaborated with many different brewers such as Mikkel and Jeppe Bjergso, also Sean Hill and Andreas Kiesmeyer as well. And he also worked for Birra del Borgo in Italy as well, who are one of the bigger craft breweries down there. But he now owns 5% of the brewery. But the main owner of the company is a guy called Christopher Strenstrud, who I believe is, he's an entrepreneur. I think he owns quite a few property companies and things like this as well. But Christopher Strenstrud owns 67% of the brewery, and in total the brewery is actually exporting 20% of all of the beers that you'll find exported from Norway, which is a pretty impressive achievement for a company that is relatively small. I mean, Norway is only about 4.8 million people if memory serves me correctly, but for a company of this size to kind of hold that accolade, I think is pretty special. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Lervig Aktiebryggeri just now. In my experience, these guys do some really nice IPAs. They also do some really good imperial stouts as well. You don't see all that many different styles from these guys, right enough. I mean, you don't see too many Scotch ales or German style beers or Belgian beers or anything like that. You do get the odd sour from them, I think, as well, but mainly these guys are producing IPAs and imperial stouts. But if you like those two styles of beer, you won't be disappointed with the things that you get from Lervig Aktiebryggeri, and it's cool to see Norwegian beer getting out there a little bit more and making a name for itself. I think in the Scandinavian countries, particularly Sweden, Norway, and Iceland, well, Iceland is a Nordic country, Finland as well being one of the Nordic countries. In these countries where the alcohol laws are a little bit tighter, you do tend to find that home brewing becomes a little bit of a culture, and so you get very good craft breweries popping up all the time. But yeah, if you want to learn a little bit more about the Lervig Aktiebryggeri, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, and that will keep you up to date with all the latest goings on there. But yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself then. So this particular beer, as I mentioned, is a 4.7% American pale ale. It's hot with Chinook, Citra, and also HBC 431 with a malt base of pale malts, oats, and Citra. So to tell you a little bit about HBC 431, it's an American hop. Very experimental. It's supposed to give you a nice kind of herbal and earthy type thing, but it's got a good little bit of citrusy fruit in it as well. I've heard that it's supposed to give you a little bit of a kind of peachy melon type thing. It can also give you some berry fruits too, from what I gather. I am surprised because I've seen that this hop's been around for a good number of years, but as far as I know, it hasn't actually been renamed or anything like that. So yeah, kind of an interesting one actually. But let's get rid of the brewery notes then, and we will get on to the tasting of this beer itself. So yeah, let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting. You can just have a little quick look at the artwork before we open it up. There you can see, quite nice to present. You know, the Lervig Aktiebryggeri beers, they've always got a little bit of interesting artwork on them. There you can see the star here. This is the Lervig brewery symbol there. I don't know what the LA actually means, but this one, you know, this one I would have thought it would say NO for Norway or something like that. But yeah, half-litre beer, this one. It tells you on the side a little bit about it, but it's best before the 7th of November 2019, so I'm guessing that we will be getting this one pretty fresh actually. So without further ado, let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting of this beer. Surprised we're getting this one in a half-litre actually. Usually the Lervig beers come out, if it's a can, usually they come out in the 330s. I'm sure I've seen 440s from these guys actually, but yeah, who cares? 500 millilitres is more than 440. We get more beer out of this one. This one wasn't too pricey either. I think I paid about 40 crowns for this actually, 40 Swedish crowns, so good deal I think. But yeah, as you can see with this beer, and as you would expect, it's poured a nice kind of hazy colour, this one. I would say it's more of a yellow than an orange, this actually. A nice bright hazy golden yellow. There's a solid 2/3 finger of a frothy but kind of bumpy white head on this one. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass and a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there. But you know, overall it looks pretty nice. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see that this beer is pretty damn hazy, I have to say. But let's take a closer look at that aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. You can smell some of these nice juicy fruity notes coming off of it already when you open the beer up. But yeah, so for me, straight away you get some of these nice juicy mangoes from the citra in there. You can get some of the complexities out of this. It's got a little bit of a kind of gooseberry, lychee kind of note in there, but the HBC 431, you can definitely pick out a little bit of a kind of peachy note to this. You know, I said it was supposed to give you peach, but to me peach jumps out of this one kind of straight away. There is a little bit of an almost, I want to say there's a little touch of a limey note to this beer as well. There's something in my head that just wants to say there's a bit of a limey quality in there. And I'm surprised, you know, one of the other things is, when Chinook is in here, Chinook is a beast of a hop. I would suspect that they've maybe used Chinook as the bittering hop in this one, because Chinook is a big sort of piney, resinous, and also kind of, you know, it can have a bit of a spicy floral note to it as well. It's a big piney, resinous and grapefruity hop, and I would have thought that you'd get a good chunk of grapefruit out of this. You can get a little bit of a resinous, piney quality to this one, but it's nowhere near as pronounced as I would have thought actually, so I'm suspecting that they've used Chinook as the bittering hop in here. But yeah, you get some, as I say, mangoes in this one, which is one of the telltale signs of citra, a little bit of a lychee kind of gooseberry type thing. You've got a little bit of you've definitely got a little touch of a kind of melony and also peachy note to this one as well, which is quite interesting. So to me, this one's got it's got quite a deep kind of rooted fruity quality to it. But you've got some of the sweeter, more juicy tropical fruits at the front of the nose, but at the back of the nose, when you take it in a bit more deeply, you've got you've definitely got a little bit of a more melony kind of peachy type thing. So the fruity side of this beer, I have to say, is pretty unique actually. I think it's pretty unusual. On the green side of the hops, if you like, you've definitely got a bit of that piney resin that I was talking about. You can pick up some earthy and herbal qualities to the beer, a little bit of grassiness I have to say, but I also like the malty side of this one. You can definitely pick out the sort of wheaty and oaty qualities in this beer. It's got a nice kind of smooth base to it, but there's also a little bit of a biscuity sweetness for me as well. But definitely, I mean, I would say the most unique thing about this is the combination of fruits, and I'm guessing that that will be from the HBC 431. Like I said, HBC 431 is meant to be quite a herbal kind of you say, a sort of herbal, earthy type hop. But yeah, it definitely gives you some nice kind of fruity notes as well. One thing I just realised that I forgot to say is that this is a swimming pool. So it's got a little bit of a, I don't know if these are meant to look like pineapples or exactly what they're meant to look like, to be honest. But yeah, the artwork on this one is actually a swimming pool. I forgot to say that in the earlier part of the video. But yeah, it smells really quite nice. Very curious about this one, as I said, and it's supposed to be really interesting. So without further ado, let's have a taste of this beer and see how we get on. So this one is the Hazy Days, an American Pale Ale coming in at 4.7% from Lervig Aktiebryggeri in Stavanger in Norway. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål. Yeah, that's nice actually. I mean, the thing that's striking me about this one is it's a very kind of light and easy drinker. By no means is this the most kind of punchy beer that you're going to get from Lervig, but I think they've balanced this one quite nicely actually. Let's just put the last little bit of this in and see, you know, if we get some more sediment out of it or anything like that. No, guess not. So with this one, as I said, this is quite a nice, I mean at 4.7%, it is quite a sessionable beer this. I mean, if you think about the Dunkel and the Helles and stuff like this from Germany, the big session beers, this one is kind of along the same lines, I would say. It's, you know, it's 4.7%, that's the same kind of that's the same sort of alcohol percentage you would get from those kind of beers. But for me, this one's just a really quite nice, easy drinker. By no means is this the punchiest beer that you're going to get from Lervig, but you can definitely pick out, the first thing I'm noticing about this as well is you can definitely pick out those earthy herbal qualities of the 431 hop in this. It's really unusual actually. Compared to the other beers you're going to get, I mean, most of the Lervig beers are very juicy, fruity, kind of creamy sort of thing, and you've usually got a little bit of a kind of spicy floral quality to them, but this is just unusual in the way that those earthy and herbal qualities come together. It's really the green side of the hops for me that's the sort of quirky part of this beer actually, but it'll take you a few sips to get used to that, I think. But yeah, it's interesting because in the beginning this beer, it has that nice smooth, creamy, slightly sweet quality actually from the wheat and the oats. It's definitely one of the more complex pale ales that I've had. I mean, just me being me, I would usually pick an IPA or a double IPA over a pale ale. Maybe it's the Scottish and maybe, you know, a genetic alcoholic and things like that, but you know, I would probably always pick the stronger beers over the kind of lighter ones, to be honest. But I would always pick a West Coast IPA over a New England IPA, to be honest with you too. I just like the more complexity and things, and I do think generally as you go up the scale the beers become more complex, but that's by the by. But for me, this is definitely one of the more complex pale ales that I've come across, so I have to give a thumbs up to Lervig Aktiebryggeri for that. They've done a nice job with this one. So let's just try and break this flavour down a little bit more and see how we go. So yeah, with this beer then, let's start with the malt base. So straight away, you can feel that the centre of your palate is just blanketed with this nice, it's just blanketed with this nice kind of smooth, wheaty malt base there. You can feel that just blanket the middle of your tongue. On top of that, you start to get the more creamy oaty notes, and I think they've got a really nice balance with the sweet side of this beer. And if you go to the very centre of your palate, you can pick out a little bit of a biscuity sweetness to this beer too, which is really nice. The further you go into the aftertaste, you can pick out a little touch of a grainy note coming out of this one, but for me, that smoothness and sweetness in this beer really lingers on, and it's very, very nicely done, I have to say. They've done a really nice job with this, with the malt base in this beer. So thumbs up to Lervig Aktiebryggeri for that. They've done a Solid job. I keep repeating that, but I really quite like the malt base on this one, and it's unusual for me to say that about a pale ale because I've always found them very light in the malt base, and to be honest, I probably lean a little bit more towards the malty side of things rather than the hoppy side of things in a lot of aspects. But yeah, the malt base of this beer is really quite nice, and the more you drink of it, the sweeter it gets actually. So yeah, so for me, on the green side of the hops, this is where this beer is kind of quirky and it stands out. In the back corners of the palate, you do get a little bit of earthiness in this, and I mean it's more than you would normally get from Citra and from Chinook. You will always get little bits of that, but the earthiness is a little bit more prominent in this one. It's a little bit darker actually in its flavour too, but as you come kind of further forward in this one, you start to get more of the earthiness smooths out a little bit. You do get an element of a herbal quality to the beer, and as you come forward towards the front corners of the palate, it's a little bit more kind of piney and resinous, and I'm guessing that'll be the Chinook starting to show its colours in there as well. But round the very front curve of the palate, it just gets a little bit lighter and more grassy, and then behind the front curve of the tongue, that's where you get these nice sort of fruity aspects coming out of the beer as well, and that's where this beer really starts to shine. This is a really well balanced beer actually in terms of the way the fruitiness, the green side of the hops and the malt base goes together. This one I have to say pulls things off very, very well actually, so I can see why this beer is fairly highly rated. So yeah, as I always say, the fruity side of the beer comes out just behind the front curve of the palate, and you get that nice oily bubble behind the front curve of your tongue there. For me, there is a little bit, if you go to the very back of that, there is a little bit of the grapefruit just kind of lingering there. That'll be kind of, you know, that'll be the sort of hangover from the Chinook, if you like. You do get a little bit of that dark grapefruit flavour in there. You've got some nice kind of, and I suppose Citra can also contribute to that a little bit as well. Depending on what you mix Citra with, you will get a little bit of grapefruit out of it. But when you come further forward from that, you do get the nice juicy mangoes, and there's a peachy note to this beer as well, and I'm suspecting that is the HBC 431. But yeah, it's just interesting how everything goes together on this one. The further you go into the aftertaste, for me, there's a little bit of a kind of lychee, gooseberry sort of thing, and again that'll be from the Citra, but for me there's a peachy, apricot-y kind of thing going on with this beer, which is interesting. And that it sort of moves more towards an apricot type flavour the further you go into the flavour as well. Yeah, in the aftertaste it's definitely becoming more apricot-y, isn't it? But it's there's a little bit of I want to say there's a little touch of lime in there, something like that. But it's more, the lime's quite minimal to be honest. I could be mixing that up with the gooseberry lychee flavours from the Citra, but yeah, that HBC 431 is an interesting hop. Maybe I need to try a single hop IPA or something like that involving it. Maybe that would be a really interesting project actually. I remember there was you know, Brewdog used to do their single hop series, and Mikkeller had a 20 bottle single hop series release at one point as well, which I would have loved to have tried. And that teaches you a lot about the hops, but you're always learning on this beer reviewing journey, if you like. But the HBC 431 seems like it must be a really interesting hop. You know, peaches, apricots, a bit of limey aroma as well, and some of the herbal grassy kind of things. It really works quite well with this beer. This is definitely one of the ones where it's more about how all the different flavours kind of merge together actually, rather than being punchy in any one regard. It's definitely one of the more kind of complex pale ales that I've come across in recent times, but to me, Lervig get a thumbs up in this. It's a really quite nice beer, and I think it's rated well into the 90s on Rate Beer, and it's into the 4 stars I think on Untappd as well, and you can definitely see why with this one. So yeah, it's kind of good actually. Systembolaget are giving us some you know, they're giving us some really kind of interesting beers to taste actually. So yeah, the state system seems to work to a fair degree actually, so well done to them for that as well. But yeah, a really nice, quite complex pale ale this one. I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this again, and it's very, very sessionable, not far off what you might get from the German Helles and things like that in terms of its sessionability. So in terms of the mouthfeel then, Yeah. Mid-bodied beer, I think, this one. Carbonation's really smooth. It's got a little bit of an oily quality to it, this one, but mainly it's a smooth, kind of creamy mouthfeel. This, as I said, the malt base sweetens up the more you drink of this beer. But to me, yeah, a good balance between an oily and quite a smooth mouthfeel, this one. Nice little bit of hoppy bitterness. I think you're only talking about 30 IBUs at most for this beer, though. The mouthfeel, the malt base, rather, as I said, has a really nice smoothness and creaminess to it, but it does get a little bit sweeter the further you go into the flavour. The hoppy side of things, a little bit of herbal quality, nice little bit of spiciness in there as well, and the fruity side of this beer is quite juicy but also quite complex as well. But overall, a very, very nice beer, this one. I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again, and if you get the chance to try this, I really recommend that you do. Definitely one of the more complex pale ales that I've come across in recent times, and we know that the Norwegians are producing some really, really good stuff these days, so I hope that I can get back up there and review some more Norwegian beers for you, and some different ones from some different breweries as well over the coming years. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on the Norwegian beer scene, but this is another very solid beer from a brewery who are quite well established in Norway these days. So yeah, let's leave it at that. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this one in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from the Lervig Aktiebryggeri as well. This one was the Hazy Days American Pale Ale at 4.7%, and it's definitely one of the more complex pale ales that you're going to come across. But thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. Make sure you check out this beer, make sure you check out my social media, and we will catch you soon. Until the next time, Sláinte just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Sláinte, skål.